Hello, I'm Irma Baker. Welcome to our show. We're sponsored by RSVP, the Retired Senior Volunteer Program, which is part of Mature Services. Right after these messages, we're going to be back with today's guest.
RSVP of Summit County has been making a difference in our community since 1972. RSVP volunteers are increasing the quality of life by participating in programs and organizations that provide important services to the community. RSVP matches personal interests and skills with opportunities to serve. If you're interested in adding more meaning to your life and improving the lives of others, please call 330-253-4597, extension 166.
Welcome back. Our guest today is Donna Baker. And no, she's not a relation of mine. I wish she were. She's doing marvelous things out here where she and her husband Bob are doing organic farming and sharing with the community. Donna, it's great to have you with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, I was thrilled to be able to come out and take a look at your operation out here. And I think what I find most fascinating, and I think it will be for our viewers too, is the fact that you started this really as just a hobby garden, like anybody else has a backyard garden. In fact, tell us how you did get started.
It started out just as growing for our family. We grew such amounts that we were canning, and it turned into basically a hobby, just a little hobby garden that we put a roadside stand out in front and did that for 2 or 3 years, and turned into Wadsworth Open to Farmers Market, and we started down there, and it just grew and grew and grew. Every year my husband would add a row on one side of the garden, and next thing there were more rows and more strips and just bigger. So,
well, I think it's really interesting that out here you have a nice piece of land, but you're also using land from your neighbors. They're part of this too.
They certainly are. We've had wonderful neighbors on both sides of ours that have graciously let us farm on their land. They weren't using it for any reason other than mowing, and it was benefit for us because we were able to use it for crops, and yet they didn't have to mow as much either. So we're very thankful for their generosity.
It's a nice area, and you have expanded over the years. You told me a little earlier that you really started when you moved out here into the Wadsworth area here, and you're from Wadsworth originally. You said that as soon as you moved in, your husband put in pepper plants and tomato plants, and that's so much like the way that most people do start their gardens. Whatever made you just expand the way you did?
Well, yes, we were here. We moved in, and 2 weeks later, that was the first thing Bob did, was put in tomato and pepper plants. So that was kind of the start. But really, the canning, as our family grew, we have 5 kids, and as our family grew, we grew more tomatoes, more beans, more peppers, and I'd freeze and can and everything. So it turned into something that I could do with the kids as a family, and yet make a little money then. It kind of turned into that. We wanted our kids to have some work ethic, and it just has kind of snowballed and progressed into more and more. So that vision wasn't there to begin with, but that's what it has come to.
How about the nutrition and the health benefits of eating organically produced food? Because you're not in this as a business like a big organic producer, but you are doing everything you can within our climate to keep it as organic as you can. What about the health benefits and the nutritional benefits?
Bob and I feel that we wanted to present a product that we want, the same thing that we wanted for our family. So if we can eat things out in the field, like our kids, and just go out and grab fresh produce, whether it's a cherry tomato or a pepper, a regular tomato, anything, a carrot, we we felt that that's how other people would want to eat without using the chemicals on all the produce. I just feel that that's important. There's so many things so many chemicals that are put on things that if you can, if we can eat a natural product, that's what we wanted to provide for other people if we were going to grow, to produce for others.
It really is important today to take all those health benefits into consideration when we're buying our food, when we're preparing our food. One of the things about home gardens and organic farming, if you are eating what is in season, then do you feel that people appreciate it more because it's not something they're going to have all year?
Absolutely. That's a very good point, because strawberries come in June, and you're not going to get an organic strawberry in October. Same with tomatoes. When they're in and they're plentiful, but come November, December, unless we do have high tunnels and we do season extension, but under the normal growing method for most people, most of our customers appreciate when asparagus comes in. They know there's, a 4-week window that they need to buy or purchase or eat that product, and in the fall it's going to be gone. So the customers do appreciate the fresh food that is grown, in Ohio during that season.
You've really gone beyond just a roadside stand and the farmer's market. You and Bob have become CSA producers, and I think CSA is Community Supported Agriculture.
It is.
And tell us a little about what that involves, because there may be some viewers who are interested in finding a CSA producer in their own areas. What is a CSA and how does it operate?
CSA, as you said, it stands for Community Supported Agriculture. And what that is not only does the community support us monetarily with helping us to finance our farm. So if we have crop failure on something, we're not the only ones taking the loss. The members are, they appreciate the fact that we're trying, to grow it, that the weather, we're dealing with the weather, and the weather's just been crazy the last couple years for everybody. I mean, whether you're a grower or a non-grower. But then we also require a 3-hour work time. So not only is it monetary, but then the members come out, and one time during the season, they provide 3 hours of work. So it's a kind of a joint effort between monetary and work, and then it also gets them in the garden so they can see how their food is grown, how it's, harvested, how it's handled. Because in like a grocery store setting, you could have a picker, a packer, it gets to the store, they unpack it, then you've got people, handling the produce, and so as many as 4 or 5 people who you don't know could be handling the produce or product before it even hits your home or your table. So a lot of people like the idea of knowing where your food comes from, who's handling it, and how it's grown. So,
well, I think the real day-to-day benefit of the program is that every week they get to come over here to Baker Produce and pick up their share of the CSA production. And you have never missed a delivery. In the years that you've been doing this, there has always been produce. Has that ever been like, oh my goodness, what do we have this week?
Absolutely. I try to do a newsletter on Sundays, Mondays to kind of fill them in what they're getting and what's gone on, what the garden happenings are throughout the week. And a lot of times I really don't know what's going to be on until I start picking on Tuesdays sometimes, because things come on so quickly and then things fade out quicker than what you think, depending if you have cool evenings or really hot days. So yeah, it's hard to even tell, even though we know how many days to maturity, when it should come on, it can be tricky.
It sounds, though, like you enjoy it, and your whole family is involved in the production. Well, it's here. It's the end of the growing season now while we're here today, and I know you have beautiful produce that's just lined up here ready for your share members to come and pick up this afternoon. So what do you recommend for people who want to eat more healthily, who want to eat more organically? Because perhaps not everybody can be a member of a CSA, but certainly they could look for a CSA in their area. But what do you really recommend for people who maybe cannot go as far as producing their own?
Well, there's farmers markets that they can attend, but kind of going back, if you can produce your own food, that's the way to go. If you have just even a little garden plot or a small area that you can, I say give it a try. I mean, it's therapeutic when you're out in the garden, not only the health benefits of good produce, but it's just nice to get the fresh air and, a little exercise with bending over and everything. So as far as what people can do if they don't do a CSA, really the farmers markets are great. There's almost every town right now has a market going on. So first of all, I'd say produce your own. If not, the markets. Bob utilized the library an awful lot when we were first starting out. So if you're unsure, go use your library. The internet is amazing, the wealth of information that you can use. So that's what I would recommend.
I think that's helpful, and also the fact that there are magazines, and Baker Produce has been featured in a number of magazines. You've been featured in Organic Gardening, in Ohio Magazine, in Cleveland Magazine. So certainly what you're doing out here is getting a lot of attention, and certainly the interest and the enthusiasm you have for it. Well, what I'd like to do now is perhaps take a tour of one of your growing fields. Certainly we can't go to all, and I know you have herb gardens that are growing, you have greenhouses where you're producing, you even do free-range chickens. You have a little bit of everything. So let's go over to the field now and take a look at what's up here at the end of this growing season.
Sounds great.
Well, now we're out in the field here at Baker Produce. And Donna, thank you so much for letting us come out and actually stand in the middle of, what are these?
These are zucchini plants. We have several crops here. We do succession crops. And so this is actually our 5th planting of zucchini. So with it being late in the fall, this is a little larger crop than what we normally do for spring and summer, because with the cool evenings, things grow a little smaller, or grow a little long. It takes a little longer for the growth. So he usually puts in about 4 or 5 rows of the regular green, a row or 2 of the yellow zucchini, and then summer squash, which is the little softer squash that for variety. So we grow several varieties of every crop just to ensure that maybe one type of seed is maybe a little more tolerant of rain or a little more tolerant of dry or something along those lines, where if you have different types of, even if it's the same crop but different types within that crop, we should have a little better success rate.
Well, I guess that's what surprised me, the fact that here it is in the beginning of fall, and I'm standing in a patch of beautiful zucchini plants. I didn't realize that we could do that. I always think of those crops, I guess in my non-gardening lack of expertise, I think that you can only do that in the height of summer. But you really can do succession planting here in Northeast Ohio.
Absolutely, absolutely. And with us not using chemicals or herbicides or anything like that, we count on succession crops. We don't just plant a crop, end of May, beginning of June, and you plant it once, and once it's gone, it's gone. That's how, we've learned how to keep planting, and when something comes out, the field is plowed up and another crop goes in. So between the multiple plantings and then crop rotation, it's kind of important to, kind of keep things going.
Well, I know that you are doing as organically produced product as you can. Does that mean that you don't use any commercial pesticides?
No, we don't. If we're having a bad season, like real wet, we may use a natural product that we get from Ohio Earth Foods. It's a local company that only does natural products. But if we can avoid anything, we don't. We try not to, even go there. We don't use herbicides. As you can see, we actually mow in between the rows so that we don't have, for the weed control, and we don't have to spray anything. So it's important that we have honeybees. They don't tolerate the sprays. We feel it's important.
Well, that is something that I noticed, that your rows are wide, and that's because you do mowing between the rows rather than doing any kind of tilling between them or putting pesticides down to control the weeds. So really, weeds are, I won't say they're welcome, but you're controlling them naturally. And what about these plastics that I'm seeing on the ground here?
This is what you call plastic mulch. And so it's a give and take. We don't really like using the plastic. However, it is beneficial for the weed control, so we don't have to use herbicides. And then also we have drip irrigation. And the plastic helps hold in the moisture so that we can conserve conserve water. So in the long run, the plastic, even though everyone's, they're trying to avoid the plastic, there's a lot of companies now that you can take to recycle plastics, so it's still okay.
So that's the biggest thing, is recycling the plastic when you're finished with it, rather than putting it into a landfill or something like that.
Right. We try. There's different years we do different things. So yeah, we try to, as much as we can, dispose of it environmentally correctly.
Okay, that takes care of weeds, and you pretty much live with them and control them naturally as much as you can. Talk a little bit about bugs.
Oh, bugs. There's good ones and there's bad ones. We have one good thing is the praying mantises. With us not using chemicals, we have an abundance of praying mantises, which you don't see very often anymore. So those are beneficials. Obviously, we have cabbage moths, which are not so great, and you'll probably even see a few of them flying around. However, we try to plant plenty to where, they get a little bit of it, but it is what it is. We soak our broccoli in salt water so that kind of draws out some of the critters. But the bugs they can be an issue at times.
Is that part of home gardens and organic gardening? I should say really organic gardening, because a lot of home gardeners do use pesticides. But for home gardeners who don't use pesticides, is that something that you just expect that your produce maybe isn't as shiny or perfect as in the grocery stores? But that doesn't matter, does it?
No, not really. I think sometimes people assume that organic produce or naturally grown produce is going to be gnarly or really ugly looking. And really and truly, it doesn't have to be, but yet there are times when, because you're not spraying for a powdery mildew or, something like that, where you will see, nick marks on the stems or on the product. So sometimes your organic produce, even though it's picked fresh and it will the shelf life is longer because of the fresh picking, the storage value isn't quite as long. So that's why when we do our share, we try to only give what you can use up pretty much in a week.
Oh, that really makes it important for people maybe to try new recipes or find ways to really take advantage of the seasonal produce. Do you find some of your share members coming in and telling